I'm going to start off today by pleading with someone who I actually like, and I think that they are good for the football universe. But today, it's like I want to put him in a corner and just put like the dunce cap on him and say bad, like treat him like a dog. Bad Mike Florio, bad Mike Florio. Mike Florio, within the last couple days, released this big article, and the thing about it, it's so crappy, is he says like, I know this is crazy, but and it's like no
He
one
loves
ever
to stir the pot, man.
yes,
He
like
loves to
no
stir
one
the
ever
pot.
thinks of this, and now he says it, and you're like, shit, that actually makes sense, and I'm pissed off that it makes sense. What I'm getting at, if you don't know, Florio wrote a whole article and suggested Cincinnati, the Bengals, move their franchise to Chicago and become the second Chicago franchise, the AFC Chicago franchise, and build a stadium with the Bears, world-class stadium, split it like different than the Rams and Chargers, because the Rams had Kroenke pay for it all, and the Chargers just tenants. This would be like two family-owned, teams that don't have the billions upon billions like a Kroenke going in together and sharing the cost and sharing the stadium. And as he's writing it, he's very much like, I know there's like a 0% chance of this happening. But as you're reading it, you're going, fuck, that actually makes a ton of sense. And it really what he lines up is that the Bears aren't in a serious problem, right? The Soldier Field's not great. But really the only complaint is the fans and the tailgating and the getting in and out of the stadium, the walk. Like the actual facility, while it's small, it's not in disarray. It's not falling apart. It's not it's not what the Redskins have been dealing with, the Commanders have been dealing with it in Washington, where it's like the stadium's literally falling apart.
Yeah, or MetLife. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have the lease, I think, till 2030. So, like the Bears, it's not like pressing for the Bears. For the Bengals, that's where he makes a great point. It is pressing. Their lease ends, I think, within the next 3 months. And the Brown family is, very stingy. We know with the way they pay players, the way they do their own facilities. They famously have the Bengals players walk across the street to get to the practice field. We know what's going on with the Reds. You made that point. I didn't even think about that with the baseball situation in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, the owner's been threatening to leave many, many times because the Reds fans are fed up. Yeah.
And truthfully, the Bengals, like the thing that the NFL would say, no, you're not leaving, is they don't want realignment, right? Like you don't want to have to move a team and then like, okay, well, if you move to San Diego or to San Antonio, you'd have to like rearrange the AFC North, right? And you couldn't have them play in San Diego and be an AFC North team. But if they move to Chicago could feasibly, it's big enough to house two markets.
Yeah, but also
AFC
think about the Chicago fan base. Who would come on board with where would these Chicago Bengals fans come from?
Well, listen,
Chicago's got some pretty freaking diehard Bears fans.
They are diehard, but there's a lot of fans too that are just like, they're so sick and fed up with how bad the Bears have been. And
but an equally, if not worse, run organization is coming into town.
But you'd have Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? You'd have Joe Burrow.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And so it's funny because my thought, like, so where my head at, you ask, what would Bears fans think? The Bears would still be my number one. But I would instantly think of them the way I think of the White Sox. Now, people give me crap for thinking of the White Sox this way. The White Sox are my second favorite team. Like, I root for the White Sox. I'm not one of those people who's like, we hate you. If the Cubs and the Sox
I never understood that.
If the Cubs and the Sox were both in the NL Central, I'd be like, fuck them. Like, they're our rival. Like, I think of the Brewers or the Cardinals or whatever. But I say every year, like, I want to see the Cubs beat the White Sox in the World Series. Like, I want fun baseball. I want exciting baseball. Now, if the Bengals move to Chicago, I feel like I would think of them equally. I don't own White Sox gear. I don't buy White Sox gear. But I went occasionally to White Sox games when I lived in Chicago, when there was a team in town, or literally when they were losing so many games, I could get like behind home plate for like $30 and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so I would think of the Bengals in that way. Like, I would root for the Bengals, like as long as they're not playing the Bears, I'm like rooting for them to be good, to bring playoffs to Chicago, to bring winning to Chicago. it's interesting. The only other city and that would work for the Bengals, and I don't think Florio mentions this, but St. Louis. They could feasibly move to St. Louis and still be in the AFC North. You know what I mean? Like it's a long, it's not a quick trek from Baltimore, Pittsburgh to St. Louis, but it's not totally out of the cards. It's still central time zone. It's still this side of the Mississippi River. Well, literally the other side of the Mississippi River. And St. Louis is like next in line for the NFL to say, you get a team. Now, I don't know if the Brown family would love that. And I don't know if the city of St. Louis would be like excited. I think they would, because I think they crave football, but it's interesting. And I hate that it's interesting. So I hate Mike Florio for bringing this up. Leave the Bengals in Cincinnati, leave the Bears alone in Chicago, and let the Bears get their own stadium and not have to have the Browns share the Bengals share the stadium with the Browns, with the Bears.
Now, they'd have to share the profits of it too. So that's
Florio.
another thing. Like, I don't know if a guy like Kevin Warren and the rest of the Bears brass would be keen on that. I mean, this is their opportunity to own something and have a stake in a location, you know. But no, I mean, it's definitely interesting and not the most, like, you know, stratospheric idea.
That's why I hate him for saying it, because I never would have thought that. And as a Bears fan, I didn't even know the Bengals stadium deal was almost up. You know what I mean? So he's bringing up
this would still take many, many years to implement too. So I wonder what the Bengals would have to do in the interim. Like, they're just take 1 year rentals.
Yeah, you sign leases like that. Like, because that's what the Bears are probably going to have to do with Soldier in Chicago. Is like, hey, the stadium in Arlington Heights will be done in 2032 or whatever. So we're going to 2 more years here or whatever. And I will say, it's looking more and more and more likely that that's exactly what's going to happen. Kevin Warren did say recently that, you know, Arlington Heights, he was praising their property in Arlington Heights and the value of their property. Now, he might have been saying that to, again, talk up the value of the Bears. Maybe the owners are looking to sell now that Virginia's gone. And certainly the Bears owning that land, that giant, beautiful piece of property, prime for a mega stadium and all of the entertainment and hotels and district around it. And so it makes the Bears more valuable. So who knows? But it certainly feels like now it's 90-10. The Bears are headed there. And they don't need the Bengals. They don't need the Bengals, but the Bears are cheap. And if they're keeping the team, that might be the only way for them to truly build a beautiful, awesome stadium, is to split the cost with the Bengals.
No, that is an interesting.
This is April football, baby. This is early April football. This is what Mike Florio's done to us.
Well, not only that, there's been a lot of other speculation out there, and a lot of, you know, ancillary things to talk about as we ramp up to the draft. And that's kind of what this episode here is to touch on a little bit. We'll discuss Mel Kiper Jr., his mock draft 4.0. We'll talk about the top 10 picks that he has listed there. And then also gonna touch on what an 18-game season could look like, because it's becoming increasingly not just likely, not just probable, but imminent in terms of this could happen as early as potentially next year, if not the next couple of seasons. So let's start with that, Mark, and talk about what this could look like. Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis always does really great work.
He's great. Must follow.
Yeah. And he puts out a giant, you know, write-up every year of, lots of different analytics and data from the year before going into the next season. So a must check out for sure. But he has a little bit of a breakdown here on what he believes would be a good way to kind of structure this thing. So an 18-game NFL season, this is how he has it broken down. It's going to be 2 bye weeks for all teams. And actually, I'll try and cue this up here so that we can, if you're watching, you can kind of follow along a little bit as to what he's got out here. But 2 bye weeks for all teams, which isn't, you know, inconceivable. It actually makes like a lot of sense as what you would have to do almost to be able to get the players union on board. 20-week season total, then that's how it would break down, We'll go down to just 2 preseason games, period. So we've already seen the 3 preseason game take effect. This would essentially be just chopping one off. I don't know if this would mean they're still going to hold the Hall of Fame game. I would imagine that that's probably still going to be a thing. Week 1 then would be Labor Day weekend, kick things off there. So it'd be that would be the week before it typically has started. And that's so that the 20 weeks will get you to the Super Bowl being President's Day weekend, which of course, for many who work, typical Monday to Friday job or in corporate America, which, the vast majority of jobs in this country have President's Day off. So a national holiday on the day after the Super Bowl. This in particular, the President's Day weekend being the Super Bowl, has been floated for many, many years now. I am totally on board with that. I think we should. It's the most celebrated event in terms of sports, Mark, in the country, no question, right? So it only makes sense to maybe not make the Super Bowl a national holiday, but have it fall on that weekend to where everyone can have that extra day and party hard on Sunday. So,
oh yeah,
your thoughts on how this kind of breaks down, and do you think this is the most logical and feasible way to schedule it?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. First off, you steal Labor Day weekend away from college football, which is their only real competitor right now as far as
they'd have to start a week early.
Right? Is college football. Yeah. And so you're taking their starting week away, which again, the NFL loves to, even though they need college football, it's like, hey, it's our world. Everyone else is just living in it. The Super Bowl President's Day weekend is what we all want. I know not everyone gets President's Day off, but I think it would lead to, in like 10 years from now, basically almost everyone, for the majority of people, not, restaurants or whatever, you're going to still probably have to work, but you're going to see a lot of people
like use that as in their like job negotiations.
Yeah. Yes, I want Labor Day.
I don't need more PTO, but can we just negotiate? I don't need more money. Weekend. Can you just give me Labor Day weekend and President's Day off?
Absolutely.
That's all I need.
The 2 preseason games is interesting. I think players are going to like that. Coaches are going to hate that. But you're going to see that being swapped out with a lot more of these joint practices, which we're already seeing a lot of those. But you're going to see more and more of that because, let's be honest, for offensive line play and a lot of the technical things, young quarterbacks getting on the page with their team, they need live reps. You need as many live reps as you can get. But I think the 2 bye weeks is a must. Now, I don't know whose idea this exactly is. I'm just going to tell you, I've heard it. The person I've heard it the most from is Barstool Big Cat on PMT. When he's talked about this, he's talked about one of the bye weeks being a universal bye. So the whole NFL just takes the week off. And I actually think that's a really brilliant idea. He argues it would be like the first weekend of December, something like that, where it's like, go get your holiday shopping done. Like you just like, give us a break, give us a breather. You're asking so much from fans to put away, honey, no, I got a game to watch. Honey, no, I got a game to watch. Give us that 1 week. Give the families all that 1 week. They won't do Christmas. They won't do Thanksgiving. But you do sometime in between that where you just say, hey, we're all shutting down. And then from there on out, everyone's playing, and it's a mad dash to the finish and a race for everyone for playoff spots and things like that. And that way, if you're college football, you can schedule something there too, like the first or the final week of your championship Sunday or what Saturday for whatever college football. Like you give them that back and you say, hey, this is a week we're taking off. I don't know if the NFL will think that's a good idea or not. I think it's a good idea. What are your thoughts on that?
I think in theory it's a good idea, but in actual practice, I don't think it would ever work. The amount of money they make from broadcast, because they'd have to give up a week. Not that the bye weeks are always happening, right?
They're still gaining a week. Like they're still netting a week.
But the fact that they could own a calendar to where they'll have games on the airwaves every week for this block of time. I just think that's too much because then, like, that's going to make more. There's going to be like 2 weeks now where there's much more heavy consolidation of games.
Yeah, it's true.
And a lot of these networks now, especially with streaming, are all about the exclusivity.
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity for them to corner a game.
That's a great counter. If I was negotiating and you're Roger Goodell and I'm the negotiator, what if I counter with, but what if you extend the trade deadline to that week? So you still own the media because it's the trade deadline is that weekend. And so then teams could make that trade that then changes the trajectory. They get a week to get that new guy in and changes maybe the big, headlines, changing the trajectory of the season.
Yeah, I mean that helps some, but that doesn't help Netflix. That doesn't help Amazon.
It's true.
That'll help, the FS1 or ESPN. I don't know. I also just don't think that I don't see a need for that because then you're going to get into an argument about, well, this team played on Thursday before the league-wide week off, and then they don't have to play until Sunday night, so they actually got all of this extra time off where the rest of us all, had to play a typical Sunday to Sunday deal. I just think there's too much.
It's an option. I think it is an option. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't do it. But either way, you have to have 2 buys. You have to have 2 preseasons. And starting Labor Day and ending President's Day, it works. And you know what? When you do this, you never have to change it again. Like the NFL can say to the players, we will make the promise to you. This is it. This is all we're going to ever ask for. Now they won't say that, but I think deep down they know this is as far as you can push it. And I hope they know that deep down. I think Roger Goodell's not stupid enough to think you can push it farther. I think the only way you add more games is then if you do the thing that we've talked about in the past, like here or there, again, it's been floated, I don't know by who, but like if there was 20 games in a season, you could only start Patrick Mahomes for 18 of the 20 games. So do you wait and do you say, if he gets injured, those are the 2 games he misses, then he plays? Or do you say, we're going to strategically sit him? You know what I mean? Like you can only play, everyone can only play 18 of the 20 games. It would increase roster sizes. It would increase the value of the backup quarterback, the backup offensive lineman. Those guys would get more playing time. It would be like some guaranteed playing time. But again, then it's like,
no,
that's crazy. Because what if you're on a prime time? Yeah, because what if you're in a prime time game and it's like, oh well, no, we're gonna. Then you run into what the NBA deals with the, no, he's injured and we're resting him, where it's really just load management. But
or I mean, just think about being down to the last week of the season and
you're on Colt McCoy, and that's you get your hopes
Ravens
on Colt
Steelers,
McCoy.
and it's like, okay, we've gotten this far, and we're playing for the division, and now you're telling me I can't start my starting quarterback. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think they shouldn't do it. I never push it beyond 18. 18 is a lot. I would have kept it at 16 because I think the urgency but
I agree. I liked 16. Yeah.
You should never, ever, ever push it beyond 18. So I hope in our lifetimes, and we're doing this podcast, we will never have to talk about the 19th and the 20th game. It's just
too much.
Don't do it. Don't do it. 18, we'll give you 18. We don't want to, but we'll give it to you. And because you're creating this beautiful Labor Day to President's Day, but don't push it beyond that.
Oh, also with that league-wide bye, that's another week where the betting markets aren't able to field any bets for the NFL. Like that's a tough sell for them as well,
But it would be a good go. If you're a player, you'd like it, right? Like I'd like
definitely to have a guaranteed, reset for everyone.
We can take a quick 3-day trip down to Mexico with the wife and the kids. Let's get a little sun, get a little R&R. We'll come back, refocus, refreshed, and let's go. You know what I mean? Guys do that on a bye week anyways, but to be able to, and especially for it to be the same thing, a consistent, like, hey, week 14 or 15 is like it's everyone off. I think there's an argument
Hey,
to be
what
made.
about this? If you made 4 bye weeks only, and each of it is half the league, so half the league gets their first bye this week, then half the
Oh,
league gets their first bye the next week,
so
and
it's like
then you basically do 2 back-to-back weeks in different
where half the
spots of
league's
the
not playing.
calendar year where it's half and half,
And then
so
the
that you're
networks
still
get
always getting
guaranteed
games.
standalone games too. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. So it's like everyone is either week 5 or week 6, and then everyone is either week 11 or week 12.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
I
it's
like
like
that.
that could be
I
interesting,
I
right?
like that a lot. And then because that's one of the hard things. Like,
And you could do NFC and AFC to start. You
yeah,
know,
and
you
like
could
with
say NFC gets weeks,
fantasy
5 and
footballers
11,
would
and
either
then
love or hate that depending on the way you draft. You got to pay attention.
well,
Got to pay
yeah.
attention to
Yeah,
that.
that's also true. That'd be an epic.
I'm the king of never paying attention to the draft, and then I get my roster lined up, and I'm like, "Oh, week 9's gonna suck."
Hey, you just you got to hope that you dominate, and then week 9 it's a
Yeah.
punt
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you. All right, well that was pretty cool. Let's get into Mel Kiper's NFL mock real
Ooh,
quick.
1
The
through
top
10.
10. There's been a lot of talk, and actually, you know what? I'll see if I can find this too. They just released the names of who the NFL invited to the draft.
I saw Jalen Milroe got the invite, and he
Jalen
accepted.
Milroe getting,
And it's in Green Bay. Remember, it's going to be weird. It's in the stadium. It's at Lambeau. Because if you've been to
Yeah.
Green Bay, which I have, there's nothing but the stadium. You got a stadium and a Kohl's. So where are you doing the draft?
right? Yeah, no, the imagine like the hotels.
It's going to be
gonna
cool.
be
The
overrun.
NFL has not missed with the draft on the road. Like, it's all been cool. It's all been great. But this is going to be an interesting one.
Okay, yeah. So they only have just like trickled in, a few names here. So it's not the full list of invitees just yet, but we've got, the LSU left tackle Will Campbell. You've got, guys like obviously Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, but Jalen Milroe was very interesting. To see that he is. There's been a lot of buzz lately, Mark, about Jalen Milroe. The Steelers are being reportedly very, very high on him, but clearly the NFL thinks that there's a decent chance that Jalen Milroe goes in the first round, which is very surprising, I think, for a lot of people, especially because many didn't even consider him to be the third best quarterback in this class. Jackson Dart being, the name that's been floated around more so. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, is it possible that we could be seeing 3 to 4 quarterbacks go in the first round?
Well, it's always possible, right? But let's go back. I think it was the second year of our podcast. Maybe it was the first year of our podcast. The
2020
draft with Kenny Pickett. So it would have been the second year.
That was our first draft. Yes. Yeah.
That was our first draft. And you and I we kept saying, we're like, I don't know. I mean, it looks like, I can't even think of the guy's name now. He's the backup.
Well, it was Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. Like,
we thought he could go early.
We're like, everyone's saying he's in the first round. He's projected in the first round. I was like, so I guess we're putting him in the first round.
Desmond
like,
Ritter.
Yes. So
yeah,
you just don't know with where there's smoke, there's fire. When I did my quick look at the quarterbacks, we talked about it about a month ago, and we're going to do a big draft episode coming up here soon, where we mock the first round. I'm going to stick with my guns and say right now, the max is 3. And the third person I would have would be Jalen Milroe. And I think Jalen Milroe is I want to control him for the 5th year. The upside is just incredible.
It's true. Yeah.
And so if you are a team.
And he's the most Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields-esque player in terms of the ability, right?
Yeah.
So.
Jalen Hurts. I mean, he is upside out the wazoo. So Mel does not have. Wait, I missed it. Mel.
No, that was just the NFL draft invitees. I'll bring up the Mel Kiper.
So my thing is, I think there's going to be two quarterbacks in the top. There's definitely going to be two quarterbacks in the first round. I think Cam Ward and Shador are first round quarterbacks. So he has Brown. See, the Browns going Travis Hunter is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but I do think, honestly, I think that's the way the Browns should go in this.
I would take
in this
Abdul
case.
Carter if I was them.
But you've already locked up Myles Garrett. Like pass rush isn't their problem. They need.
That's so sick to have Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett to go get. You're going against Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
Sure.
You like that would be so sick. I wouldn't listen. Travis Hunter's great.
Yeah, but Travis Hunter's probably a once in a generation athlete.
Yeah, but is he a top 10 corner in the league?
But see, I would put him at wide receiver. If I'm the Browns, I would play him at wide receiver.
Yeah, but you're taking a guy who's maybe his peak is going to maybe be a top 25, a great number 2 wide receiver in the NFL, and you're taking him number 2 overall.
You think that's his peak? I don't think his peak. I think he could be a clear number 1 wide receiver.
I think and that's where we disagree. I would take Travis Hunter if I was like the Pats. If I was a guy like Vrabel, who I think I'm going to start him as my cornerback 2, and he's going to be my wide receiver number 3, and he's going to be an elite wide receiver number 3. You know what I mean?
Just hard for me to justify having that talent only roll out there for 20 snaps a game. Yeah, he would start the guy can make absolutely circus catches. I mean, he has the best. It's also a weak wide receiver draft class, but I think he's the real deal. Like in terms of wide receiver talent, I think he's the real deal.
So you think he's a 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns?
Yeah.
90 catches. All right. I mean,
yeah, I do. Well, now whether or not they'll use him that way, that is to be seen. A lot of and Todd McShay agrees with that. That's been his big thing too. So I would say like I agree with him when it comes to his assessment of Travis Hunter. But I also think Travis Hunter would be a dynamite corner in the league too. I just think if I'm Travis Hunter, I want to be a wide receiver because they are the ones who make the money and they're the ones who make the big plays. At corner, what's the peak? If you're a great shutdown corner, you're getting 5 picks a year? Like it's just so much different. He's got the opportunity to as a wide receiver and he's a guy that I'm sure will lobby to be the wideout versus the corner, and that's just my guess.
He's going to be an interesting story all year to follow. Wherever he gets drafted, it's going to be fascinating to watch how they use him. And because if you're talking about drafting Travis Hunter, you have a plan. Now, what your plan is, we don't know, but you have a plan. So, I don't hate it, but I think if the Giants are at 3,
if you're the Giants, you can't take Travis Hunter, right? I think if you're the Giants, you trade down at that point.
You try to, but if Abdul Carter's there, I get it. Like the strength of your defense is your line, and you can add him. I think that's exciting.
No, I agree. But if Abdul Carter goes to the Browns and you've got Travis Hunter there, and you're the Giants, then you would have to make him a corner because you just took Malik Neighbors super high, and he's great. But
so I'll say this: the questions I have looking at this top 10, the top 10 doesn't really bother me. The questions I have is: are the Raiders at 6 going to go with the running back? They just signed Geno. It's basically 2 years of Geno as our starter guy, no matter what. So it feels like they're not drafting a quarterback this year. But do you take Genty? Is he worth going 6 overall?
Yeah, I mean it's a big question. Like for those listening, I'll read off Mel's top 10 here. She has quarterback Cam Ward going to the Titans at 1, Travis Hunter to the Browns at 2, Abdul Carter to the Giants at 3, the offensive lineman, the tackle Will Campbell to the Patriots at 4. Jaguars take Mason Graham, who is by most accounts considered the best defensive tackle in this draft, in a draft loaded with defensive line talent. The Raiders get Ashton Genty at 6. Tackle Armand Membu to the Jets. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then it's Jalen Walker, the standout linebacker, to the Panthers at 8. Shadur Sanders falls all the way to 9 to the Saints. And then the Bears round out the top 10, taking tight end Tyler Warren. That's also an interesting pick.
Yeah.
So you were saying Ashton Genty at 6 to the Raiders. Is that too high? I don't think so for the Raiders here, because I don't think so. For one, the Raiders have locked up Geno Smith, right, for a few years. Now, yes, that could be a 1-year deal. I don't think that's how they're approaching it based on what Pete Carroll has said and based on what this organization has led most people to believe. So from that aspect, I don't think taking Shedeur Sanders makes any sense here.
I agree.
at
I don't
6
think
for
that.
them.
I don't think
If
they
it
do
was a loaded class and they had a Bo Nix here, or even, some bigger, Anthony Richardson project type available, I think, okay, you take the shot. But since they don't, they need playmakers across the board here. They could really go in a lot of different directions. I'll just say this. I don't know what Ashton Genty is going to be at the pro level. Nobody does. But he profiles and is projected by many to be potentially the next LaDainian Tomlinson.
He's a stud.
If you as the Raiders believe that to be the case, then 6 is too low,
Yeah, that's true.
to be taking this guy.
True. If you
yes, you take him.
So, and what's interesting then, if you're the Raiders, you have the best young tight end in football in Brock Bowers. He might be the best tight end in football by the end of next year. And you have a running back who you think immediately could become a top 5, top 3 running back in the NFL. And that's a load to deal with offensively, especially for Chip Kelly, who's coming in as the offensive coordinator, who can be creative with, the toys that is Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. I will say this: Saints and Shedeur Sanders a month ago didn't make sense. But now that it's settling in, that it's their young head coach, Kellen Moore, the former quarterback, Boise State, I think he looks at Shedeur, goes, oh, yeah. That's my kind of guy. And if you're a Saints fan, I think you welcome a guy like Shedeur. He can sit behind Derek Carr for a year. Derek Carr is a perfect guy for him to kind of learn from, because they play a very similar style. He's a younger Derek Carr. He's a younger Derek Carr, mobile in the pocket, can scramble for some yards, a good NFL arm, but his strength is his accuracy and his line of scrimmage play and breaking down a defense. And I think if you're Kellen Moore, you look at it and you go, I was successful putting up historic numbers with Dak Prescott. I think I can be successful putting up historic numbers with Shedeur Sanders, who, again, I think is a very comparable quarterback, Dak to Shedeur. I think if you're a Saints fan, you also say to yourself, Shedeur is what we're used to in Drew Brees, which is a guy who's going to just be a pocket passer who's really accurate. And that's what we've known for the last, 15, 20 years as an organization. And so I think it makes a ton of sense. I think the Saints would be excited if Shedeur fell to 9. I think if you are a team that's looking to trade up for Shedeur, there are teams, Giants, Patriots, Jags,
Bears.
I think Jets too, that would all, I think, be very willing to move, like to gather picks. They're like, hey, our rosters need a lot of work. The Bears, I think, would also be willing to move at 10. The problem is I do think the Saints are now the team you've got to get in front of. I don't think it's the Giants. I don't think it's the Raiders, not the Jets. I think the Saints are the team you got to get in front of. Panthers, I think, would absolutely be willing to trade around, right? Like, hey, we're open for business. But then you say to yourself, what's the price? And I don't think Shedeur is worth 2025 and 2026 first round picks. I just don't. Like, I if I'm that organization, depending on how far you got to go, I just don't think it's worth that. So that's going to be a spot to watch. I will say this about the Bears at 10. If the draft shakes out like this and there's no Mason Graham, there's no Will Campbell, there's no Ashton Genty, then I'm kind of pumped about Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren compares extremely favorable to those Iowa tight ends that Ben
Yeah.
Johnson has turned into stars. And I know that we already have a tight end who we're paying a lot of money. But I will say this, the 2 tight end NFL system and having a guy in Cole Kmet who is a very much a similar size and shape to Tyler Warren, and 2 guys to just be absolute
Yeah, it's just
matchup
more chess
nightmares.
pieces.
It's a
Yeah.
way more chess pieces. And the Cole Kmet deal by this time next year is a deal you can move out of. And Tyler Warren is a guy that you might say he's the future I want to build around. I think it's a really exciting pick if you're the Bears at 10. It's not a need, but it's a really exciting pick. So I wouldn't be frustrated about it. If Mason Graham or if Will Campbell is still there, I'd be like, if Ashton Genty's still there, I'd be like, we reached on a tight end over
No, that's
3 really star talents that are also positions of needs.
yeah. Cozen asked us, and Cozen will definitely get into the nitty gritty of the draft later this month when we do our like kind of like mock episode. But he just wanted to pose the question: who would Mark draft for the Steelers and me for the Bears? So if it goes like that board that Mal Kiper put out there, if I'm the Bears at 10, I'm actually looking to really trade down from there. Take me to 16, and I'll pick up a 2nd round or a 3rd round pick or something.
Yeah.
Because this draft is loaded with mid-level talent. It's not super top heavy, right? If I'm staying at 10 and picking, if Ashton Genty's there, he's 100% the pick in my view. Even though they've got Swift and things have worked out, and we'll see what happens with Roschon and all of that, I'm taking a generational talent there to help out my young quarterback. But if Kenneth Grant from Michigan is there, defensive line is like really good, and if you're the Bears, like let's keep it going with the line stuff. I'm all about trying to build those trenches. So that's the direction I would go. I know there's a few different options I threw out there, but that's how I would kind of play that if I'm staying at 10. If not, trade back. Get me out of there.
If I'm the Steelers, I'm all over Shedeur if he starts to fall. If Shedeur gets past 10, I would be willing to trade up, and give up a 2nd round.
I don't know if you'll have
to
to
go get Shedeur. Yeah,
if
you might not have to
past 10 though,
because after picking a quarterback, I know. But if Shedeur is gone by 10, if I'm the Steelers, I'm looking to trade down, and then I'm going to take Jalen Milroe at the end of the 1st round. The only other person I would consider, but if I'm the Steelers, I probably would wait till the 2nd round to do this, is Will Howard. Will Howard is quietly becoming my sneaky shit. Are we missing something with Will Howard?
I don't know.
Watch the Gruden.
I don't like him. It's like Mac Jones to me. I don't know.
Watch the Gruden camp video with him. Watch the Gruden camp video. His size and his running, he ran way more Kent State. He's shot.
Well, that's true. He's way more athletic than
he could be Josh Allen 2.0. He could be Josh Allen 2.0.
Interesting.
I'm just saying it. And I
know Tyler Shugg is gaining a lot of steam, and he's an intriguing prospect to me too. But a lot of these are guys we're talking
5th, 6th,
2nd,
7th,
3rd round. Like late.
Will Howard is starting to feel like it could be like an early 2nd round pick. And I'm telling you, watch the Gruden camp with him. Gruden's now doing the Gruden QB camp with Barstool. And he didn't get any of the top guys, but Will Howard was the first one. It came out, I think, on the 7th. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, I know the goal of Gruden camp is to get you to fall in love with these guys, but you fall in love with him. You're like, the kid is smart. His measurables are Josh Allen. And then he watches so much of the Kent State running, and you're like, shit, this dude can run. This dude is he can move in that 6'5" frame, not 6'5" like Daniel Jones. He moves like a Josh Allen. He's like a freaky kind of gazelle. Yeah, where it's how is he that big and that white moving like that? It's just very weird. And there's a lot of the Will Howard Ohio State stuff that frustrates you, but he led him to a national title, and he played really, really well in some of those big, big games down the stretch. Things that Josh Allen never did. So, he's got. There's something there. So, but I think Jalen Milroe I would take Jalen Milroe over Will Howard. I would probably at this point take Jalen Milroe ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Depending on the situation, New Orleans makes a ton of sense for Shedeur. Offensive coach who's got security and an accurate quarterback with a cerebral, who's better as a pocket passer than he is an athlete. With Kellen Moore, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
That's why also I think Shedeur is sneaky in play for Cleveland too. Kevin Stefanski with a accurate quarterback Kevin Stefanski's not running quarterback guy. The problem with Cleveland is it's really rich to take him that high. It's really, really rich.
Right.
But if he's your guy, if he's your guy, then he's your guy. So if I'm Cleveland, I'm not taking Jalen Milroe. I'm not taking Jalen Milroe from the Saints. But if I'm the Steelers and I do get Aaron Rodgers, then hell yeah, I'm taking Jalen Milroe. And Aaron knows that. It's the Steelers. The Steelers have a great roster. It's not a perfect roster, but it's a really good roster. It's not like the Jets roster or that Packers roster when they drafted Jordan Love. It's no, I need a guy. I need a first round pick. Get me a guy. You got guys.
Right.
You got guys. You need to not give up second, third, fourth, and fifth round picks. You need to nail those picks if you're the Steelers. You can't give those up to trade up unless you don't get Aaron Rodgers.
I agree. I think next year's the trade up year for sure. That's why I'm I don't feel confident enough to trade up for any of these quarterbacks if I'm Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
But if you let something come to you and then maybe you have the option to even trade back and acquire a day 2 pick, that would be very enticing. But
dude, it's fun. We gotta talk. We'll talk off air about the calendar here. We know we may skip a week here and then prepare and do our mock first round draft.
Yes.
And
then we're planning to have a watch along of the draft. Really excited to do that. We tried to do it last year and it didn't pan out, but
it's been our goal.
Yeah, it's our goal to kind of have a full watch along of the entire first round and have you all here and people popping in and talking with us and
live reaction stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a chill, just to hang back, have a beer, grab some snacks and watch the first round. So yeah, we're excited for that. But yes, the week before we will have our official, mock draft predictions for the entire round and then ramp up to the draft itself. So very much looking forward to that.
Always no doubt. Fun.
Well, that has been a fun one, Mark. We'll stay tuned for some more news on what's going on.
If Aaron Rodgers signs in a day or two, screw it. Just our thoughts. Sign.
We've
go to Pittsburgh and be really entertaining for a year.
Yeah, no question. But well, that will do it for us here for this episode. Really excited April ahead. A lot to look forward to, but if nothing else, the mock draft and the draft day episode to look forward to. So appreciate you all staying with us and stay tuned for more to come.